I'm Roy Lee Lindsay with the North Carolina Pork Council, and I want everyone to remember bacon makes everything better.
A lot of talk lately, guys, about the NBA and their media ratings going down here during the early parts of the 2024-25 season. Kerry, you said a little bit ago you watched a pro game last week that had over 75 missed three-point shots. As a guy who knows the X's and O's of the game, you understand the pro game as well as the college. Where is the next evolutionary step for American basketball, especially at the NBA ranks? How can they get back on track and capture the hearts and minds of the people during this time of year, which has always been, hey, Christmas Day has been the NBA's day?
Yeah, I think they've worked the numbers so hard that they're working the wrong numbers now, and those are ratings, because ratings drive revenue, revenue drives everything else, as we've talked about. It's from a fan standpoint, there isn't much to watch. I mean, you can watch segments of these games where they're just going back and forth and just literally jacking up the ball never gets inside the three-point line. Forget about, touching the paint and kicking it out or hitting the post and running a split cut and getting maybe some sort of action. It's just now who can come down and kind of get the first one up. Here in the state, with the Charlotte Hornets and LaMelo Ball, and I'll use that as an example because we're here in North Carolina. I just so happened to be in California when he and his brothers were coming up the ranks through the AAU circuit. When he was in, I believe, the first time I saw him, he was in 5th grade playing with 9th and 10th and 11th graders because he was playing with his older brothers. And his mom and dad coached the team. And I'm telling you, he wasn't doing anything differently as a 5th grader than what they're doing now in the NBA, which was, I'm too small to go in there. I can just launch the ball up from anywhere across half court, and I'm never come out of the game because Dad's trying to build my brand, and kudos to them, it worked. I'm still shocked that it does. It's definitely the entertainment value, but the entertainment value of the three-point shot to the average fan, they can do that on 2K. Like kids and fans nowadays are absorbing their content, if you will, from non-traditional methods of YouTube and streaming and 10-second TikTok clips. Like, it takes a second to shoot a three, and you know what? They can do that. Here's the problem. Kids can go out and jack up threes, and it can go in. So what's the big deal? Well, I got to watch a bunch of pro guys do that. Show me something different. From a basketball purist standpoint, show me an offense. Show me some stuff that, Duncan used to do with the Spurs, or even as far back in the last 5 years that Kerr was doing with Steph and the Warriors when they're actually running offense. There's nothing to watch. Like, there's literally nothing to watch. It's just a bunch of guys out there running back and forth, barely running, throwing the ball up and hoping it goes in. It's insane. It's absolutely insane to me. The best future player in the league is Anthony Edwards. He's got the work ethic. He's got the athleticism. He's got all the highlight type ability. He leads the league in threes. I would have lost all my money if you told me, okay, on the Christmas, who's going to have more threes, Anthony Edwards or Steph Curry, or maybe 3 other guys. I'm looking at now, Steph's 8th in the league in threes. 8th. There isn't a world in the NBA that Steph Curry's in where he shouldn't be first. He's 8th. Now, granted, he's missed a few games, but even only missing 5 games compared to the top 7. Derek White, Jason Tatum, Peyton Pritchard have all taken and made more threes than Steph Curry. This is like Bizarro Jerry and Seinfeld. Like, what world are we watching basketball in the NBA? And the answer is, we're not. We're not watching it. So figure it out, Adam. Do something else. I don't know if this is going to force him to move the three-point line out and take out the corner three. Here's the evolution of it. They figured out the corner three was a little bit closer. All right, so let's get guys that can only shoot corner threes. And David actually used this moniker for one of to describe one of the Carolina guys, 3-and-D guys. We'll get a guy who can shoot a three in the corner and defend. Like, everyone should be able to do that. Like, why can you only do two things? Shout out to the guys who made money doing that. They might have to move the three-point line back to where it just ends at the benches and goes deeper. I don't know if that's going to happen, but it can't continue at its current pace while trying to recover those lack of viewers right now, because they're all just going to absorb all their content in highlights and YouTube and TikTok and whatever's on over the air. They're not going to sit and watch a game. It's just not going to do it. I mean, it's amazing to me. And I'm getting ready to get into a segment of the season where I'll do more Golden State Warriors coverage. We'll have a few post-game shows on some ABC broadcasts. And I'm just like praying and hoping that there's something else to talk about, because the amount of threes that were taken in the game, which is always going to be the lead in any of these games that you watch now in the NBA.
Yeah, Mike, I'm glad Coach took the angle toward your question that he did, because I agree with just about everything he just said, but I want to add another layer to it, and it includes things that I teach in my classes at UNC Wilmington, something that I bring to a lot of the speeches that I do at sports clubs and civic groups all across North Carolina. Sometimes those audiences are people who are not as sports-centric as we are, and Coach can get into those details about X's and O's and analytics much better than I could. But in the broad sense, it's important to remember that part of what the NBA is experiencing is being experienced by most other sports as well. In other words, for example, everybody's aware of cord cutting and cord shaving. So, for example, there's more than 120 million American TV households, meaning households that can get your network channels. So if you watch a game on ABC or CBS or Fox or NBC, you don't have to have cable. You don't have to have satellite TV. That's old school network television, over-the-air TV. So your potential audience on over-the-air TV is more than 120 million American TV households. The number of pay TV households in this country has shrunk and shrunk and shrunk and shrunk because of cord cutting, cord shaving, et cetera. It's about 60 million or so. So it's only half of that network TV audience. And that means all these NBA games that are on, I know some are on ABC, but far more are on cable channels or other pay TV channels. So not as many people have access to it. So whereas it is true that NBA ratings are down almost 20% just from last year. So it's the year over year concept where they just take how many people were watching the NBA regular season 1 year ago at this time, and then they kind of overlay the same numbers this year, and that number is down almost 20% in the NBA. But here's what's interesting. Men's college basketball is also down 20%. So it's a slightly different version of basketball, and Coach could elaborate on those differences. But college hoops is down 20%. And how about this? Women's college hoops is down even more. And that is more of a teamwork game, right? Now, the Caitlin Clark effect is going to impact the women's basketball popularity drop. And I mean, NBA and college roughly down 20% year over year. Women's basketball is down almost 40% year over year. So it can't entirely be described by just style of play, too many threes, et cetera. Part of this is an industry-wide issue, and just about everybody is dealing with it, with the exception of the NFL. But I encourage folks to remember the majority of NFL games, the large majority of NFL games are available where? On network TV. So the NFL, yes, they have some games on ESPN, et cetera. And now they even have some streaming-only games. But the overwhelming majority, what do we all typically watch? That 1 o'clock game, that 4 o'clock game, it's going to be on Fox. It's going to be on CBS. That's network. Potential audience, 120-plus million TV households. Again, if you're on ESPN, potential audience, this number changes because of, ESPN Plus is the streaming-only service for ESPN. So you don't technically have to be a cable TV subscriber to watch those games. All these rules are changing in the bottom line. So whereas NBA Commissioner Adam Silver does have to answer coaches' questions about whether the details of how the game is played is reducing those TV numbers, and that's definitely part of the formula. At the same time, Adam Silver remind all of us, their social media interaction numbers have never been higher. So more people are watching highlights and dunks and crazy plays and fun plays. Fewer people are doing what Coach described, sitting down to watch that whole game. When you have drops of 20%, even the National Hockey League is down 28%, I think it is, from last year. So it's even good. Clearly, it goes beyond basketball. And it's an industry-wide issue that the NFL is beating and everybody else is wrestling with. But yeah, so if you're Adam Silver, you don't control those broader industry entertainment world issues, but you have to react to them just as you have to decide whether changes to the rules, changes to the three-point line, changes to the way the game is played is the right way to go. In what is a new world for all of these leagues. Just remember that the NBA, while ratings are down, just signed or is in the process of signing new TV deals that dwarfed the previous TV deals. So it's people who don't like the NBA can take shots at it over and over and over. Well, guess what? The NBA is the second wealthiest league in the history of the world. And you don't sign those growing multimedia rights deals unless you're really, really popular. That popularity is not as well reflected anymore as in pure TV ratings. It is reflected better in that broader picture of just how people consume sports, how people consume entertainment here in 2024. But the NBA is on rock solid financial footing because of that new multimedia deal that they just signed here within the past handful of months.